So this video is going to be about the delusions in the Black community, if there is such a thing as the Black community. Because communities, you own everything that's in the community. You make decisions for the community. You know who's in it, who's out of it. You basically is like, your own little makeshift little, empire type thing going on. And within the Black community, you have people who live amongst each other who don't really know each other. You have other people who are not from the community, who don't live in the community, who are not invested in the community, but are able to sell and buy and do whatever they want in the community. It's just a place that Black people just live amongst each other, typically the poor, and they just survive, whatever that means. So these are things Black people, especially in these conscious groups, but Black people in general love to talk about how they're gods and how they dominate in the genes and being athletically gifted and how they are the first human beings. And I'm like, that's great. Let's say everything you said was automatic truth. Okay, cool, great. But what does it say as us as Black people, where you're the first human beings, you're gods, you are athletically gifted, but you're being dominated by weaklings. You're being dominated by the last groups of people to be in existence. You're being dominated by inferiors. Like, that's not even something to brag about. That should be making you feel shame. And I think it's like an ego stroke because Black people, specifically Black men, have been emasculated for so long that they're trying to find their masculinity by bragging about facts or these conscious or these new Egyptology, religion, Israeli type whatever that they invent to find their manhood. And I'm just like, but that doesn't still stop the white man from telling you how to live, telling you how to eat, telling you how to dress, controlling the household because he probably employs you. You're on the internet talking all this killer cracky shit, but he employs you. He probably employs your girlfriend, your wife, whatever. He probably runs your life like he does for the most of us. So it really doesn't put you in any better state, whether you are on some Jesus tip or are you on some Black men as God tip. You're still being ruled by someone who you feel as an inferior or a mutation of you. Why doesn't that help us? Because when you're living in these delusions, you're far away from the reality. It makes you feel good. It's a cloak. It's like you having cancer, but you taking Robitussin. How is that supposed to help? You're sitting here doing these ego strokes and having these conversations, but it doesn't change the paradigm that you live in. It doesn't make yourself more self-sufficient. It doesn't make you an entrepreneur. It doesn't make you live off the grid. It doesn't do anything. It just makes you feel good for the moment. And then you're going to have to punch in or clock in next day and work for somebody who you feel is an inferior. It doesn't really change anything. If anything, it makes it worse because you're living in La-La land. You're no different than a schizophrenic. You're living in your own world built by your own inferiority complex maxed in Egyptology, but you're not actually changing anything. And that's dangerous. You're walking into a situation, you're living in a situation where they are exterminating us daily with no regard, with no repercussions, and they don't care. And you're saying, well, it doesn't even matter because we never died anyways, and we got the ancestors, and we got some unks, and we got some shea butter and some hotep, so we good. And let's say everything you said was right. What is that supposed to mean? That's supposed to make me feel better that we could all be exterminated tomorrow, but it doesn't matter because we'll be here in spirit? What? Like, basically you're saying that you're okay with being a slave if you get to keep your religion. You're okay with being ruled by inferiors, succumbing to their will, but at least you have your mind. I'm like, yeah, like a lot of people who are in institutions like prison or mental asylums, yeah, they have their mind, but your body is still chained. Your body is still controlled. Just like in slavery, a lot of black people had their mind. A lot of black people who knew where they were from, knew their language, knew their culture, and guess what? They were still picking cotton. So it doesn't really matter if you have your mind, if it's not connected to doing anything and it's not connected to your free body at your free will. it really doesn't matter, because you're just gonna fall in line. When you're away from the master, when you're away from other slaves, you could be yourself. But after your little 2-minute break, if that, you got to go back to playing your part. So does it really even matter? And this whole grander type of mentality, this intellectual masturbation doesn't do anything. It doesn't change. It doesn't inspire anybody to build, to be like, oh, my ancestors built the pyramids, so I'm going to build me a 21st century pyramid. It doesn't motivate you to do anything. It just makes you feel good. And the bad thing about it is that it's not even your stuff. It ain't, you're not King Tut. You're not Nefertiti's. You're not ancient people. You're not from Mesopotamia. You're not from Kemet. You're not a Nubian. That's not you. Those people came and went. Those people died. Those people are no longer in existence. But you want to jack their culture, jack what they built, just like Europeans with African culture, Europeans with hip hop, Europeans with just about anybody, to be honest with you. Europeans with this world, to be honest with you. You're doing the same thing, but you feel like it's not as bad because you're from that lineage. And I'm like, what if you're not? Like, do you think every people who are in these conscious communities, they really think they all stem from Egypt? I'm like, no. Some of y'all are from Benin. Some of y'all are from West Africa specifically. You know, dark skin, nappy hair, wide nose, full lips. Like, this is you. Y'all looking all around this place to grasp the same things that Europeans are doing. You're trying to go into Egypt because that's what Europeans are doing. They're trying to whitewash Egypt to make themselves feel better. And you want to come back and be like, hey, no. We were here first. But you're not trying to go where blacks come from. You're not trying to go into Ghana. You're not trying to go into what is clearly still to this day black. You're not really interested in that because, you know, there's no fairy tale in there. There's no mystique about it. The Europeans aren't fascinated by it, or at least you don't know if they are. You assume that they're not. There's no archaeology off of that. The History Channel is not making a 3-part to what's in Benin, so you don't want to claim that. Why is it important to build? Because everybody else is doing it. That's how you secure your future. That's how you secure the next generation. That's how you make sure the next generation is good. Black people continuously have this cycle of starting from the bottom, whereas other people, they're standing on 3 or 4 or 5 generations. That's generations who are built. The first generation has built and they moved on. Let's say, for a clean example, first generation came on a boat. Let's say they came on a boat from Italy. They worked. Let's say the mom was a maid, dad, he worked at a butcher shop. Cool. They saved up the money, they bought a house, and now dad owns a dry cleaning business. Passes that on to the son. Son is now owner of the dry cleaning business. He marries a woman. Let's say her parents were on the same thing too. She owns the bakery. They flip that. Now son, a little mogul. He owns now dry cleaning businesses throughout the tri-state area. Okay, they have kids. Say their kids, not only do they own dry cleaners, but now they own pizzerias. Flip that over. Now their kids don't only own dry cleanings and pizzerias, they own dry cleanings, pizzerias, bakeries, and so on and so forth. While black people, we're just happy that we just got this grant to go to college. And I'm not shading college at all because I went to college. And truth be told, I feel like where I am in my life and how I want my life to be, I really didn't need college. It was great, but I didn't really need it. And I'm stuck with this debt. And a lot of people, especially this millennium, Dr. Boyce Watkins made a video about this. Like, this generation is expected to die in debt, and student loans is what's crushing us. You don't need college. That's the hidden secret. You don't need college. You can make good money without college. Now, I'm not talking about bagging groceries in grocery stores, no shade. You can make good money going into tech, going into IT, going into coding, going into being an accountant, those things. You don't necessarily need college for that. But those are the things that are making money. That's how you're going to have the nice car and the big house. Though it's not necessarily something that you should aspire to, but it's not a bad thing if you had it. That's an example of building. And you see, when you have the money, you have the influence, you have the businesses, you can dominate the neighborhood. You can set your own agenda. You can tell people who can come in and who can't come in, and you can set the prices in the community, how people are getting gentrified out their home because they can't afford to live there because there was someone who bought up the property and said, rent is $800 here, how about $2,000? And I saw this link on Facebook where it was giving out the most expensive areas to live in, which Massachusetts is one of them. It's top dollar. With all the real estate companies they have here, you're not going to find anything for cheap. Even in the so-called bad areas, you're not going to find anything for cheap. It's expensive. So be expected to live like 5 to an apartment, or be expected to like never sleep because you're always going to be working. So yeah. And I saw other areas that beat us. I think New Jersey beat us, New York beat us, obviously, and I think California might have California beat us like by like $1 and some change. Massachusetts, it was around, basically, let me explain this, how much you would need to make an hour to live it in this state. So with Massachusetts, you had to make like 24 something an hour. I think New Jersey was like New Jersey was a couple of cents less. It was like 24.09, and Massachusetts was like 24.90 something, and California was like 25.06 or something. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate, because it's expensive. Everything is expensive now, but it's extremely expensive to live in these states, even in the poor areas. And I'm like, when you don't build, you can get gentrified out your neighborhood. It doesn't matter if it was black for the last 20 years, the last 40, 50, 100 years. If you can't afford to dictate what happens in your community, someone else can buy up your community and tell you deuces. They don't have to kick you out. You're just going to throw yourself out. And that's the importance of building, to keep what you want how you want it, to control, to have the power, to pass it down, to have influence. But you can't do that if you just pay rent. Because even with paying rent, there's certain restrictions. You gotta ask the landlord, depending on where you live, if you can have cable or satellite, if you can paint the walls, if you can change the locks, if you can do whatever you want in your apartment. You are just leasing. You don't own anything. And if they want to, they could just say, get out. Of course, there's legal ways to go about it. You can't just really tell someone to get out, because you could actually sue them. But it's more on the favor of the landlord. And that's the thing about it. You have to build. You have to secure a future for your kids. Because you see the statistics. You see a report where it said a black man has less of a chance of getting a job compared to a white man who came out of prison. This world, especially this Western society, was built for whites. We're built for white males. So they're always going to have a bias towards white males. And this thing of, well, it doesn't matter because we got God and we the original people and we got some unks and ashe, don't matter, because we live in a system of money, and those who have money can control things. So your spirituality is great, but your spirituality is not going to change the system of things. If anything, it's going to make you in an inferior position where you're supposed to be God and you're being controlled by mortals who can put a hit on you and you don't even know it. We don't own anything now, and we're being terrorized. God forbid if we were all homeless, without jobs, without anything, we would just be basically gypsies and anybody can do anything to us. Even worse now. I mean, to be honest, what's stopping anybody from doing anything to us now? But it'd be even worse. Now you still kind of have a couple heartstrings here and there across races who kind of be like, oh, that's really sad. Not really going to do anything. Not really going to exchange power. I'm not really going to do that, but I feel bad. It will get to a point where they're just going to be like, I don't care. I see all them little thuggies and the thuggettes acting a fool. They're all little Chiracians. So who cares? Kill them all. And then what? What's going to save you? Jesus didn't save your ancestors, so Jesus ain't going to save you now. So who's going to save, like, your Egyptian gods? And these are the things that people don't think about. We cannot keep starting from the bottom while everybody else is on 18 generations of wealth, and they're on the dollar in their community flows a gazillion times, and ours barely scrapes through one full hour. And I'm just like, we gotta do better as a people. Like, we need not to be scared of capitalism. And that's another video I'm going to be making by the end of this week. This whole, I hate this, But the benefits of what I hate, well, I don't really mind. We're going to talk about this whole capitalism thing, because people act as if they say they hate capitalism, that takes them out of capitalism, and they don't participate in capitalism. Whether you like it or not, you're most likely are participating in capitalism, so you might as well control a bit of it. And I'm not trying to go at spirituality, because I do feel like spirituality is important. I'm not going to lie to you, I feel like it is important. Not necessarily religion, but spirituality. I do think you need to connect with Mother Earth. I do believe you need to connect to your higher power, whoever that is. Or it, she, they, whatever. I do believe that. I think you need to be centered by something outside of yourself. Yes, I do believe that. If you're so centered in yourself, there's a good chance you're going to be very egotistical, very arrogant. The way humans are wired, you're wired to destroy. And I hardly believe that we could have done all of this, and we can't even do it a second time, and we're out here killing and destroying. So if we could have built this greatness, and now we're here destroying the greatness, then were we the ones who did it in the first place if we can't even duplicate it, but we can just destroy it? Anyways, it's another video for another day. I could go on and on about this. For example, you have Asians who believe in, they're Buddhists, right? They're Asians and they're Buddhists. And whenever you go to an Asian store, like a nail salon or just an Asian market, you see that they have some type of, I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to be PC about it, this thing. They either have Buddha or they have this water thing going on, and they pray to it, and they still show respect, and that's their spirituality system. But then they have the nail salon, and they keep that up to par, and they keep that running. And they have their Asian markets, and they keep that running, and they keep that up to par. They don't cut their spirituality for money. Their spirituality connects to keep them going and pushing. You see with Jews are Jewish. They have the Star of David. But that doesn't mean that they don't get into business. It doesn't mean that they're not in the financial system. It doesn't mean that they're not doctors and lawyers, which are high paid career fields. That just means that they got the yarmulke and they also got the paper. And you see with Arabs, they'll pray 6 to 7 times a day, but they still own the gas stations. You see with Indians, you see these examples of people who still keep their spirituality system, their religions, but they keep on pushing, they keep on getting this money, to be just blunt, getting this money. You see with Europeans and Christianity, even though they have butchered that up several ways, but they still collect the money, and they use that money to, not only in religion, but they use money in general with their economy to fuel the military. The military goes out and they dominate, and they, big military takes over little military, and they set up base and they make rules, and the military of the United States goes into different countries and how they run that country, and how that connects to the capitalism that you hate but still you participate in. That will go into the next video sometime this week, so look out for that. But on this video, you see how your economy can protect you from outsiders. Your economy can set the rules, and your economy can protect you. Now, I know a lot of y'all gonna be like, what about Black Wall Street? Black Wall Street was on a good streak. The only thing that was a problem is that they didn't think of protection, which is kind of, no disrespect, asinine if you know these people don't like you and they have a peak interest in seeing you swing on trees. You should have been locked and loaded. But that's neither here nor there. It's just that you need to build. You need to build. You need to build. Especially for the next generation. You come in and you can live your life and buy platform shoes, bell-bottom jeans, and whatever else you were doing back then. You can smoke some crack or whatever you were doing back then. And then you have kids, and your kids are going to have it harder than you. Life is harder in general, but the more advanced it gets, the less the opportunities, and you have new people who are moving and shaking, and new laws, new constructs, new ways of living. And if you do not prepare your children for the system of things, you do not prepare your children by giving them a head start in life, you are basically a traitor to them, because now they're going into a system that doesn't like them, doesn't have an interest in them, and now they're at their mercy to get a job or to live in a system or just to be able to survive. Like I said, things are expensive now. I guess things have always been expensive. I don't know. I'm only 23. But they're extremely expensive. Now, the smallest things could cost you $10 today, which would have cost you like what? $3 back then. And you don't prepare your kids for that. You don't prepare your kids to maneuver through these things. And like I said in my other video about Chirac, that's how you get these kids who just say, you know, F life, I'm just not going to participate, or I'm just going to make my own rules. You do not adequately raise your kids to be able to thrive in these systems, and you wonder why your kids have so much angst against you in the system. A lot of these kids early on know that the system is against them, and you're still sitting here spitting out fairy tales, spitting out religion, spitting out spirituality, spitting out whatever, nothing concrete, nothing that they can actually see and use. So that is the end of my video about the necessity to build, the necessity to live outside of your delusions. It's great that you have all this ancient knowledge and you apply it to you, and you think you're an Egyptian, and you think you're from Mesopotamia, and you think you're a Cushite, or whatever else you think, and you believe whatever. I'm not here to tell people you should or you shouldn't, or whatever floats your boat. If you're not harming yourself, you're not harming other people, whatever. But that's not going to save you in today's day. You know, if any of these royal Egyptians of yesteryear were alive today, they would have to adjust to today's time. Just like if you were back in their time, you would have to adjust to their time. There would be no iPhones. There would be no laptops. There'd be no anything that you're accustomed to today. There would be no Wi-Fi. There'd be none of that. So, whatever. You need to live in current time today. Not in your delusions, not what you think or what you wish or how you would have done it today. And you need to fix today so you can have a better tomorrow, especially for your kids. So that's the end of my video. This can go on and on to break it down, but I'm just going to cut out here. So tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you a spiritual person? Are you living in delusions? Are you trying to change or do better for your kids? Are you trying to build? What kind of things are you building? But we do need doctors, we do need lawyers, we do need scientists, we do need mathematicians, we need concrete people who can build, who can actually help us on a greater spectrum. It's great that black people are doing the entrepreneur thing, especially in fashion, which I'm not knocking at all. I think that's fantastic, especially when you're owning our culture. But we need things that are going to help us out in the long run and that are just not trendy. We need things that's going to actually help us as a whole. I hope this video doesn't offend anybody, but I mean, if it does, it does. I really can't, fix your feelings. So leave your comments below. Let me know how you feel. Comment, rate, subscribe, share. Be blessed, and I'm out.